I used to have several sites. Now I kind of like the grower's edge. It gives me that cash max. You can tell it which markets you're looking for, and it will tell you what your highest net back is based on the price they're paying at that time and the basis that they're paying. And that's pretty handy because I don't have to go to so many different sites.
Good afternoon, welcome to GrainTV. My name is Cody Bills, this is Logan Burgess. Today is Thursday the 24th, and we had the market mostly unchanged here for corn and wheat here, drifting a bit lower. Corn for September trading down a penny, December contract down 1 1/4 cents. Wheat in Chicago trading down 2 cents for September, December down 4 1/4. But soybeans is really where we saw a lot of action here today. September contract trading up 9 3/4 cents, and soybeans for that new crop contract, that November, trading up 8 1/4 here. What was interesting is when you look at that new crop contract, we were trading up pretty sharply here in the overnight session. When the market opened, we traded up as high as 11.07, I believe. It was met by sharp selling pressure for the remainder of the day, closing up not nearly as high as we opened here this morning. But one thing that's very interesting, and the reason why I think we saw a lot of buying pressure in the overnight session, is simply because of the trade action on Tuesday. We consolidated really kind of for the third time in a row, or a third time around that 1065, a clear support level and the low of the day that we saw back on the July USDA supply and demand report day. We consolidated there, and when we traded through it, I think a lot of people added some short positions. I know that when you look at the positions here, we see almost a record net short here for soybeans. So I think there's this is ripe for some short covering. Well, when we saw a lot more shorts added to the market here on Tuesday, and then Wednesday you see the market moving back over that 1065 and having a positive close, I think people got a little bit nervous here, thinking that they may be on the wrong side of the market, and it kind of opens the door to this sort of short covering rally. In the overnight session, you have lighter volume, some stops could have been hit, and we end up trading substantially higher here. Of course, we did have export sales out this morning. Logan, how much did that contribute to this buying pressure that we saw in soybeans?
You know, I really don't think that it added a lot to the bullish sentiment that we saw early in the session. Most of the gains that we saw out of the overnight session were actually already in prior to that export sales report, and we sold off actually quite a bit once the market was open for the day session. So I don't think it added a lot to the bullish sentiment, but we did see some very strong numbers specifically for soybeans today. Looking at the new crop, we saw about 2.4 million tons reported sold there. That was about 1 million tons higher than the highest analyst guess coming into today's report. Old crop had a good showing as well, 226,000 metric tons reported there. So that's still a focus for traders as we continue to get old crop sales. I know you're going to touch on that here in a little bit. Corn sales generally in line with trade expectations, a little bit light on the old crop. New crop sales met expectations. I think, though, when you look at corn and soybean sales from today, one big theme that we're seeing is that as prices decline on the November soybean contract and the December corn contract, we are seeing sizable interest from the international community. So they're not just sitting by idly as U.S. prices are declining. That's good to see from a demand perspective here as we move forward.
Absolutely. And when you look at that old crop soybean number here, a lot of those sales, a lot of those bushels that were reported in that sales, we saw in reportable sales last week. So it wasn't a huge surprise to the market in terms of old crop, but it is very good to see. You can see the blue bar here represents actual sales. The red bar represents our kind of forecast pace based on the averages for the last 4 years. And then the green line here, you can compare that to the y-axis on the right side of your screen, showing the number of bushels ahead of pace to meet USDA expectations. This was a positive week, and we basically saw soybeans old crop move about 63 million bushels ahead of pace to meet USDA expectations. An interesting note here is that if we didn't have any more sales for the remainder of the season, we would finish off, and no cancellations as well, we'd finish off about 44 million bushels ahead of where the USDA is projecting it. So it does look like we are still in a very positive situation here for the old crop soybeans. When you look at corn, we're ahead of pace as well. We're about 42 million bushels ahead of pace to meet USDA expectations. So it is very positive there, but once again, old crop sales, as you noted here, missed analyst expectations, down really about, I think, somewhere around 42% on the week over over week.
Yeah.
So really not very positive here for old crop corn. I think one of the reasons why we saw it mostly unchanged here today.
You know, Cody, a lot of the action today was focused on the demand side of the equation, but you do have an update for us as it relates to the production side. For most of the growing season here, we really haven't had any concern about growing conditions, but it does seem like in the last couple of days here, a little bit of that is starting to creep into the market, specifically for soybeans. Can you kind of talk about what you're seeing there?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you know, people have been concerned a little bit. You know, it's not, I don't think we've seen any sort of risk premium built in from these concerns, but it certainly helps, I think, some of these short covering rallies.
Yeah.
But really the western part of the grain belt has been dry and continues to be dry in the next 10 days or so. It looks as though we are getting some scattered showers here in the Dakotas and Minnesota. Today, that's going to be very spotty, so it's not like they're going to get a significant amount of precipitation, but it should help out a little bit. But the bottom line here is as we move into August, really those northern areas that receive so much precipitation earlier on, they have a relatively shallow rooted soybean crop and corn crop here. And if the fact that it's dry here in the next few days, in the next 10 days, it puts more and more pressure here to receive moisture later on in the growing season. So what it does is it starts to provide a little bit of foreshadowing on a story that may show up here later on in the growing season.
Yeah, you know, looking at the production side, we are going to get a crop tour update from Doan here in a little bit after the close. And we'll be tweeting about that report as it comes out. Basically, they're going to break down state-level yield expectations from their ongoing crop tour. If you want to get live updates from that, you can follow us at GrainTV on Twitter. I think that kind of wraps up what we saw here today for the grain market. A lot of fundamentals for this market to chew over, both on the production side and from a demand perspective. We'll help keep you posted on the ongoing demand story here for new crop corn and soybeans in the weeks to come. Thanks a lot for joining us on a Thursday. We'll see you tomorrow.